Kia ora everyone, Donnalouise here, and thanks for popping by. I recently was gifted my first Yazz puzzle from Lance of Puzzles NZ, so thank you so much, Lance. I really appreciate it. I'll leave links to Puzzles NZ in the description below. They do have a great variety of jigsaw puzzles, especially for New Zealand. It's really difficult to get our hands on, brands, smaller brands or more international brands. So Yazz Puzzle, my goodness. So this is what I know about them. I was told they were like a sister company or a sub-brand. I'm not sure exactly what wording to use, but of Magnolia. And I had done some Magnolia puzzles. I did like the small 99-piece ones that I absolutely loved. And I did the bigger, what was it? Was it called the Dissectologist? It was like a dragon doing puzzles. Oh, it was so cute. I'll leave links to that video in the description below. So I was interested to do a Yazz puzzle. Now, first of all, as you can see, I've already done it. It's fully assembled on the table here. It did come shrink wrapped. You know what I'm gonna say. You know what I'm gonna say? I wish they would, eliminate the use of single-use plastics and just use the little sticky tabs. I do like the size of the box. I thought it was a good size box, not too big, not too small. Nice feel to the box, nice bright color. The only thing, I know it's so minor, but even like the smallest part of the image being covered bothers me, but that's just me, because you know how I am. I did like that on the back of the box, they show a lot of their other jigsaw puzzles, a lot of their other images. So this one's called Boombox, and it just says that it's copyright Gudron. Of course, when I don't know how to pronounce something, I revert to pronouncing it in French. Gudron. I always try to find the artist to see if they have a website or an Instagram. I couldn't find anything. But this Boombox from Gudron, very much like 80's nostalgia. I really enjoyed the colors, the pop, the fun. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed putting it together. I had shown in a post that I'd gotten this Yazz puzzle, and I had also made a post about brands that I should try on the channel. And when Yazz Puzzle's name came up, some people mentioned that they use AI art. Now, full disclosure, clarification here. I'm not against AI for the use in medicine, transportation. I even used it for my engineering master's degree years and years ago. I just don't want AI used to create art and music and poetry, or to replicate someone's voice or face so they don't have to be employed to act. That's what my opinion is for AI. And a lot of people maybe don't fully understand how AI works, so I've come up with this little analogy. You can tell me if you agree with me or not, but I cannot draw. I cannot draw to save my life. I could go and look up images online, go to museums, look at the Mona Lisa, look at some great sculptures. And if I wanted to replicate anything, say I like the Mona Lisa's smile, and I could sit there for ages trying to draw that beautiful smile, I wouldn't be able to do it. I could take inspiration, create something on my own, but there's no way that I could really make that smile look as good as it does. However, imagine if I could take the Mona Lisa off the wall and trace the smile and really learn how to do that smile by tracing it. That's how I like to think of AI. It traces, it literally learns from the image directly as opposed to from afar. What do you think? Is that a pretty good explanation? And then it hodgepodges and Frankenstein things all together. So anyway, there's a whole debate, and I did do a full video about AI art, controversial, moral, ethical debate. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below as well. When someone mentioned that Yazz uses AI art, I went straight to the source and I asked them directly. So I messaged Yazz on Instagram, and this is what I said. Hello, my name is Donnalouise, and I just have a quick question. Someone hinted to me that your puzzles use AI-generated art or use AI to help generate the artwork. Is this true? I believe you are a division of Magnolia or a sister company of theirs, and that they always use artists' work and accredit them properly. Can you please clarify? Do you use AI-generated art in your puzzles? Thanks. And they got back to me One, I appreciate, first of all, when a company replies to me, because I know they're probably quite busy, so thank you for replying. And this is what they wrote. Hello, dear Donnalouise. We were always trying to use beautiful images, and since digital art comes to life, sometimes it's hard to know if it is created directly by AI or digital artists made it. Yes, we accept we have some titles with AI-generated artworks which were released in the past, but we are more careful about not using AI-generated images anymore with both of our brands. We have the passion about art and puzzles. And like before we do, we will continue to work with amazing artists from all over the world, and we will support them as much as we can. Thank you so much for your sensitivity. So from that response, what I gather, yes, they are associated with Magnolia. I do believe Magnolia was like the first brand and Yazz is maybe a sub-brand. And they do admit that they have had some images released that were AI art. But from what I gather, it's like maybe they didn't know. Perhaps they reached out to an artist and said, hey, would you like to create an image for us? A digital artist. And perhaps that digital artist created the image using AI or got inspired by AI art, but maybe they didn't realize that at the time, but they fully acknowledge that, yes, they have had images that were, AI created. But now it sounds like they're going to try to be more diligent and work at releasing puzzles that don't have AI art in them. But then again, it's kind of difficult because you have to trust the artist that, oh, hey, so-and-so, we like this image of yours. Was it AI generated? No, I created it myself. But then maybe you have to, you have to go the next step and say, did you use any AI generated art to inspire you? Or did you just look at, original artworks to inspire you? It's a complicated situation. And looking at all the images on the back of the box, there are a few that stand out to me as like typical AI generated artworks. They kind of have a feel to them, so there's maybe one or two. I'm not going to point them out because I don't want to be wrong because I don't know. But the other thing is, give maybe the consumer the choice. Let's face it, AI, it's coming. It's going to be everywhere. I can't even avoid it. Like I use my phone, I use different apps and they're trying to autofill and complete my sentences. And I'm like, I didn't ask for this AI option. How do I remove it? So it's there, unfortunately. And how we decide to live with it is frustrating, at least for me. So I disable it. I turn it off. If products had to say AI inspired, AI created, created with the use of AI, then at least the consumer could decide, do I want to buy this product? Yes or no. So I appreciate Yazz replying. I appreciate them acknowledging that they do have puzzles that had been released in the past with AI art. And I appreciate that they said they're going to try harder not to have that in future and support artists. What's your opinion? What do you think? For this time lapse, I thought we could talk a bit about 80s nostalgia. Also, this is the first puzzle that I filmed in my new time-lapse area. And it didn't go quite to plan. And I really want your opinions on the lighting, on the setup, and also what angle you really like to see time lapses. Do you really enjoy a perfect top-down view? Do you mind if it's an angled view? Do you mind if the puzzle is upside down? I'll talk a bit more about that during the time lapse because I kind of pause and address some things. But I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions because I make these videos for you all and I want to know what you would enjoy. So do leave those comments below as well. I promise I'll read them all and take all that feedback into consideration. So let's watch the time lapse, enjoy, and we'll reminisce about some 80s nostalgia. So this is my new time-lapse setup. I have a lot more lights. I have my big table, my photographer's gray paper, and then the top-down view tripod. I don't know if this is the best setup yet. We shall see. And I was trying to use my Canon camera to film the start of this time-lapse. So what you're going to see is this is the Canon camera. And I thought it was doing pretty good. But I've had a lot of trouble with that Canon camera lately, and it completely died on me. It just crapped out, it stopped recording, so that's how far I got with the Canon camera. I do believe it's time to retire it. So at that point, I just moved on back to using my iPhone, and you can tell there's definitely a difference in the color and the brightness, but I think overall it looks still okay. I think it looks good. I hope you enjoy the time lapse. I try really hard. Perhaps there's maybe a bit too much light. It's a bit too bright, but I'm not the best when it comes to like post-processing and adjusting the light and trying to balance the colors. I try, I really do. I do my best, but I find that the video and the still photography are darker than the time lapse, slightly darker. Hopefully it's not a big deal and that you still enjoy my videos. I do try my best though. So this is where I got to last night, and it's morning now, and I have some daylight shining in through some windows. I haven't turned on all my box lights yet. You can see them all around. I'm not sure if I like this setup yet for the light, if it's enough, if it has too many shadows. It's really complicated because I want to try to make the best video for you all and the most appealing. So I have a question. Do you really like having the full top-down view and the puzzle oriented in the correct direction? Or do you mind if it's an angled view? So imagine if I was puzzling and see this angle you can see right now, and potentially the puzzle was upside down. Do you mind that? So yeah, just let me know what you think, because I could set up potentially in the other room, but it's smaller, and I don't think I'd have room for that table with the big tripod with the top-down view, as you can see there. But yeah, it just gets complicated, and then the stupid Canon has decided that it's not working anymore. So I'm literally down to my GoPro and my phone, but at least they both work well. The phone only does a 6-second time lapse, the GoPro I can adjust. But do you see how like the color changes just depending on the lighting? It's so funny and frustrating. But this is what I've done so far. I focused on all the white pieces. So I'm just gonna spend the day puzzling away, and there's the border pieces, and I'm hoping there's not too many just solid purple. I don't think so. I don't think there's a big wide border around the boombox. But yeah, let me know what you think. What angle of time lapse do you prefer, or do you mind or not mind? Do you prefer a full top-down view, or do you mind a slanted view? I'd even do the puzzle slanted right side up for you all to see, because I hate when it's a slanted view and then you rotate it and it looks like the puzzle's falling off the screen. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I just can't do that. Okay, ciao! So let's talk about 80s nostalgia. Now, I grew up in Canada, so perhaps that affects what I remember the 80s to be. But for example, I made a list here, and these are some of the things that just really popped to mind when I thought 80s. So first of all, Cabbage Patch dolls. I had a Cabbage Patch doll. His name was Aaron Kenny. I was a bit upset at first because I wanted a girl with long hair, and I got a boy with short hair, but it was okay. And I remember he even had like a yellow, like salopette. What's that in English? Overall, a little yellow overall and a white shirt underneath. And yeah, so Cabbage Patch dolls. And remember they made like a play on the Cabbage Patch dolls. They were like garbage pail kids, and I think those were more like trading cards. So that to me is very, very 80s. Do you remember like cassette tapes and boom boxes? I mean, it's a jigsaw puzzle of a boom box, but like recording songs from the radio and trying to start and stop like perfectly, but also hoping that the DJ wouldn't talk and interfere with the song, like talk over the song. I remember the first cassette tape I bought, Peter Cetera. And the reason why I bought it is because he sang the song from Karate Kid 2. And I love that song, the love kind of ballad song. So I bought that cassette tape. I remember that so well. Oh goodness. And then we had like VHS came out. And I remember we used to actually, before we owned the VHS player, we had to like rent the player, and we could rent movies, and then eventually we got our own VHS. Oh yeah, and rewinding the tapes, how long that took and everything. We did have some pretty cool cartoons in the 80s. Like what comes to mind, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, He-Man, She-Ra, Smurfs, Inspector Gadget, I'm sure he was 80s. Like, even now sometimes, like, if the car's having trouble going up a hill, I'll be like, go, go, Gadget wheels, or something. We had some pretty awesome cartoons in the 80s. And then, like, some of the, like, consoles, like the first consoles, like Atari and like Nintendo, and the design of the video games, you know, it's the scrolling screen. And I wonder if Sonic is still that style, because I remember the older Sonics were, but I don't know if they've made them more like 3D-ish real world setting. But oh yeah, the 80s video games. I had a ColecoVision that had a Smurfs and that had Donkey Kong, like the original Donkey Kong. Oh goodness, yes, I remember that so much. Big hair. I remember girls, lots of curly big hair with big fringe. Oh my goodness, I know it. We don't call it fringe in Canada. Bangs, big bangs. Getting the Kiwi influence here. Fringe, bangs, the big bangs. And the hair bands. Remember the hair bands from the 80s? Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard and Bon Jovi. I think Def Leppard actually started a bit in the 70s, but they were big in the 80s. Oh goodness, yes. But boy bands. Were you a blockhead? Like, I was so into New Kids on the Block, it wasn't even funny. I ended up seeing them in concert as an adult and loved it. Oh, New Kids on the Block. Donnie. I was in love with Donnie. Oh, what else was there? The movies. The movies had a certain feel about them. Like, you could just tell, maybe it was the clothing and the music, you know, Breakfast Club. Yeah, the movies just stood out. And the music too, in the sense also, besides like the boy bands and the hair bands, but like the pop queens, you know, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, definitely 80s. I'm trying to think of like movies, Dirty Dancing, I'm sure, Pretty Woman. Besides the Breakfast Club, there were some awesome movies in the 80s, that's for sure. I loved Adventures in Babysitting with Elizabeth Shue. Absolutely love that. And like the Karate Kid movies. Oh goodness. In sports, now I watched actually like baseball quite a bit in that time, but I do think back then, like the 80s, like the athletes had a certain style to them, the way they dressed and everything. I was talking to my partner Dave, and he said specifically he remembers the football players from the 80s, like what they wore. And I bet you it was like the tight shorts, perhaps, and stuff. I didn't really watch football, soccer, but I did watch a lot of baseball. I don't think those uniforms have changed maybe too much, to tell you the truth. Maybe they're just more breathable now, perhaps. But the clothing, let's face it, the clothing was bright, neon, you know, shoulder pads. Remember the shoulder pads? And like the Power Woman, like we had blazers, like a dress coat women would wear, the shoulder pads, and the MC Hammer pants. Parachute pants. Like, did anyone wear parachute pants? I never owned a pair. Oh, what else was, I remember like jean jackets were popular, and then leather jackets, Doc Martens. I didn't have any of that stuff. That was all above and beyond my budget. I do remember like the Miami Vice look. Do you remember the Miami Vice look? Oh goodness, like the 80s, I just have like fun memories of the 80s. Bright, colorful, fun all around. What are your thoughts on the 80s if you were around in the 80s? I know some of you watching probably weren't even born, but what are some iconic like 80s things that come to mind for you? I did really enjoy the puzzle. I did very much so. I love the colors. I love the theme. It was fun. Good variety of piece cuts. Good variety of prong shapes. Now, like Magnolia, it's a perfect grid cut, but I didn't feel it bothered me as much as the Magnolia 1000 piece. It was easier to move things around, and you can see what I mean. Like it goes along a perfect grid line. I was able to easily move it and take it from my time-lapse area over here to this area to film the intro. The one thing that annoyed me is there's puzzle dust. We all know there's puzzle dust. Some brands have more than other. But this, was there was so much, and it was so fine, and it was so gritty. Like my hands always felt dirty, you know? And I will admit, like I've wiped it all off, and now the puzzle feels amazing. I love the finish on the puzzle. I love the feel of the pieces. But the first time doing it, ooh, yeah, it was not fun. I've cleaned up all the puzzle dust. I've cleaned out the box. I've wiped off all the pieces. Like at the end, I was literally grabbing pieces and like wiping them with my finger and wiping that on my clothing. I know, terrible, but I do my own laundry, so it's okay. To clean off, like it almost felt like it was so small, gritty, like sand. And it was a lot. So the next person to do this puzzle won't have that experience. But for the first go, I will admit, you know, my hands were just, ugh, it wasn't fun. I've seen people who dump pieces in like a strainer, colander, and like they kind of shake it to get all that puzzle dust off. I do worry if that could potentially damage the pieces. Do you do that? What are your thoughts? But that was my only complaint. And that would only be the first time doing the puzzle, because most of that puzzle dust after you do it the first time kind of gets, you know, wiped away. But besides that, I absolutely loved it. So again, I want to thank Lance from Puzzles NZ for gifting me this puzzle. And I really appreciate that he tries to bring to New Zealand all those brands that are very difficult for us to get our hands on. I don't think I'll keep this one in my permanent collection, although it has a lot of purple. I think I'll pass this along and let someone else enjoy it. I think they would really, really like it as well. What are your thoughts on Yazz puzzles? And let me know, do you feel they're the same quality as Magnolia or not? I thought it was very comparable. Very much comparable. I like the thickness of the pieces, the finish, the shine. It definitely well, now I'm contradicting myself, because look, that definitely, it has that same thing with the Magnolia puzzle of the perfect grid cut. And so, yeah, it separates easily. The funny thing is, oh, see, now I've destroyed it. When I was doing the Magnolia Dissectologist, it affected, and maybe because I was moving pieces more around. Whereas this, I was maybe sliding sections more around. I didn't feel it was that much of a problem doing this one. And I very easily slid it onto this board without issue. But as you can see there, yeah, it definitely, you know, is a grid cut and can separate on the grid lines. But yeah, so maybe that's one thing they have in common. But overall, I did really enjoy it. Just that puzzle grit dust for the first build. Oh my goodness. But now it's a lovely puzzle. I'm sure someone will really enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you being here. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. It really, really does help a lot. And until next time, ciao! Thank you so much for watching. You know, I really appreciate blah blah. I hope you enjoyed your blah blah. Thank you so much for watching. You know, I really appreciate. Why can't I say appreciate? Appreciate. Yeah. What's that? What do they do for actors? Betty Bopper, Boop da Bop. No. Pickled pepper. Peter Piper picked a pep. Oh no. Oh, she sells by the seashore.